everybody. Welcome back. As always, I'm your host, Jason McNeil, and this is Cup of Joe Canada. Today on the show, we're going to talk about something that I feel is becoming a big problem in media and just in society in general, and that is ambiguity. And ambiguity sort of just being passed off and allowed to sort of go through with, that being the message. The reason I want to talk about this is I think communication is a huge thing, and it really is the way we move forward and the way we progress. We have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to understand each other and talk and have a dialogue. And the ambiguity sort of robs us of that ability. Now it does it usually for, emotional purposes. Maybe people don't want to get offended. People don't want to, get into conversations that are difficult and whatever else. And so for that purpose, we just sort of allow ambiguous things to be left ambiguous without defining them, and I think it's actually very dangerous. Now, I'll tell you the first time that I noticed it in Canada, well, probably not the first time I noticed it, but the first time, recently that it really stood out to me, and it was very obvious, and it was during the last federal election when we were talking about the middle class. Every party wants to do things for the middle class. They want to help the middle class. The middle class is dying, and we got to get the middle class back. A strong middle class means everything. Nobody defined what middle class meant. Now, why didn't they define? Because it means you, obviously, right? Like, everyone thinks they're middle class because it's a nice ambiguous term. It doesn't mean you're not rich. I'm not rich. You're not poor. Oh, I'm not poor. I'm middle class. So these policies come out. They talk about the middle class. The media pushes it. And, we don't know what the hell they're talking about, really. It sounds nice, but we don't know what they're talking about. The next one, we did a video on it previously, Islamophobia. We had a group of adults who are elected to be our political leaders, who are like, we're going to do a bill on religious discrimination, a motion on religious discrimination, and we're going to call it, bam, Islamophobia. And there's some people that are like, well, can we discuss what that means? Can we define? No, we cannot. We don't want to define it because it's a very emotional term. It's a buzzword, right? We don't want people to actually have conversations about what Islamophobia means and what the difference is between what it means around the world. None of that, because that's hard. It's difficult. So we just want Islamophobia, bad. How do you define Islamophobia? Doesn't matter. Define it however you want. Just know that it's bad, right? This is not progressive, even though it's from what's supposed to be a progressive party. Another one, it's not just the media, it's not just the politicians. I would say the Me Too movement has been a victim of ambiguity, right? Because it's morphed into way more than what it originally was. Now, some for the good, some for the bad, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, it started out, it was about sexual assault and maybe sexual assault and sexual harassment. Then it became sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sexual misconduct. Then it included sexually inappropriate behavior. Then you had Aziz Ansari's situation where it was essentially what people look at as a bad date. And that's included because this woman, her truth is, I felt abused, or I felt away. We have to be able to differentiate, right? Everything is bad on one side, but there's different levels of badness, right? Like, let's be honest. In Ontario, we had a situation, Patrick Brown, his job finished, right? With no evidence, with no sort of investigation, really. It just, the information comes out, this is the situation, now he's got to resign. So, again, I think we're allowing this ambiguity to dominate the conversation, and it's allowing people who we may not really agree with to speak for us. Another one is feminism. What does feminism mean? Because, look, I'm a feminist, right? I believe in women's rights. I believe women should have equal rights to men. I believe that we should all be, treated with respect and dignity. I don't believe that there's no difference biologically between men and women. But there's to some people, that's what feminist means. To some people, it can mean a plethora of things to a plethora of people, but it's a nice, all-inclusive word that everyone's, I'm a feminist. Of course I'm a feminist. But that doesn't mean that the person standing on the stage proclaiming to be a feminist and radical views, I'm not with them. I'm not them. Right? So again, I just think sometimes we got to look into, details, specifics. What exactly are we talking about? What exactly are we getting emotional about? Because I've said for a long time, politics and media, they want you to be emotional and uninformed. That's the easiest way to control you. So sometimes sit back maybe and look at what exactly are we arguing about? What are the details of what we're doing? Gun control, that's another one, right? Gun control is not either ban all guns or let me have a tank in my driveway. It's in the middle. right? It's reasonable gun measures, it's control of access, it's all these things. But the conversation gets dominated by people who are like, they want to ban all the guns, or people who are like, no, they just want to have like huge arsenals and they're gun nuts and they're crazy and they don't care about our kids. These are not the truth, but the ambiguity of the gun control conversation and the lack of details and the lack of specifics allows that to dominate the conversation. Again, I feel like it's destructive. So these are a few of the ways I've seen it in our politics and in our media. There's hundreds more. I mean, you guys could probably load the comments section with some of your own examples. But I'd love to know how you guys feel. Like, are we losing the ability to communicate? Are we losing political discourse? I mean, look, recently I thought to myself, I remember when I could have a political conversation and it wasn't about pilling someone or owning someone or destroying someone's worldview. Like, it was just about, like, here's how I see it and here's how you see it. And I think that's much more productive. So I'd love to know what you guys think. This is the place for it, Cup of Joe Canada. You can hit me on the Twitter @CupofJoeCanada or get us on the website, cupofjoecanada.com.